right, exponential properties. So here's your exponential properties listed. They are on your formula sheet, but they're not, I don't give you the name of each rule. One thing you do want to be careful about, remember, you can only distribute exponents along multiplication or division. You cannot distribute on addition or subtraction. All right, going straight into examples, simplifying as much as possible. So here, first one, we've got b to the second times b to the negative fifth. The two multiples are being multiplied together. They each have their own base, so that translates to adding exponents. So we're going to take b to the 2 plus negative 5. 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3. Remember, simplified exponential expressions are not considered simplified with negative exponents. So then we use our negative exponent rule. Anytime you're trying to clear a negative exponent, move it to the opposite location, meaning if it's in a numerator, move it to the denominator, or vice versa. Since this is in a numerator, because there is no fraction, it's going to move down to the denominator, so we're going to use a 1 to hold the numerator's place. So this becomes 1 over b to the now positive 3. All right, second one. All right, we have exponents on parentheses. The 9 and y are being multiplied together, so that means we do get to distribute the 2. The 2 and the y are also being multiplied together, so we are going to distribute the 3. So that's going to give us 9 to the second times y to the second times 2 to the third times y to the third. All right, 9 squared is 81. We have y squared, 2 to the third, careful, not 6, it's 8, and then y cubed. All right, as far as numerical values go, I like to simplify numbers, so I'm going to do 81 times 8. I like the numerical value, which is 648. And then for y's, we do have 2 y's, each with their own base, so that translates to add your exponent. So we're going to get y to the 2 plus 3, so 648 y to the 5th. Right, C. All right, these have no negative or no exponents on the outside of the parentheses, so the parentheses are kind of pointless. They're mainly just there so that doesn't look like it's being subtracted. They're being multiplied. So a couple of ways you can approach this one. You can go directly to combining exponents and numerical values. That's probably what I would do. So I've got the 6, and I can multiply it by the negative 3. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. I have 2 x's, so I can take the exponents on the x's and add them together. So that's going to give us x to the 5 plus 2. And then we have y. We also have exponents on y. I need a new color. So we're going to add them as well, negative 2 plus 3. So then we simplify, that is negative 18 x. 5 plus 2 is 7, y, negative 2 plus 3 is 1. You can put the 1 there, but it's not necessary. So remember, your default exponent is a 1. Now, careful here. That negative numbers are okay. A negative number is not a negative exponent, so don't move that to the denominator. Next one, D. All right, here. You can do subtraction, your quotient rule here if you want. I think it's easier to just clear negative exponents first. So this x is negative, so rather than try to use my quotient rule by combining here, I want to clear the negative before I do anything. So I'm going to move this x to the bottom. Since there's nothing remaining on the top, that means we need a 1 to hold its place. So the x is now on the bottom, and it's now a positive 3, and then there was already an x to the 8th there. So then both x's are in the same location, so we're going to use our product rule on the denominator. That is going to be x to the 3 plus 8, and 3 plus 8 is 11, so 1 over x to the 11. E. All right, we got a lot going on here. So first things first, numerical values. I always go to numbers first. 27 and 9. They divide evenly. 27 divided by negative 9 is negative 3. So make sure the negative 3 goes on the top. As far as the x's go, we've got x's on top and bottom. The quotient rule applies either moving them up and subtracting or moving down and subtracting. I would move the smallest and subtract, then you avoid negative exponents. So we're going to move this 2 up and subtract. So that is going to give us x to the 7 minus 2 on the top. For the z, this is z to the first. It is smaller on the bottom, so we are also going to move it up and subtract. So that is going to give us z to the 5 minus 1. So since there's nothing left in the denominator, I actually don't need that division bar. So we have negative 3 x to the 7 minus 2 is 5 times z 5 minus 1, 4. All right, next one. All right, we got an exponent on the outside. We can distribute along multiplication and division. Everything's being multiplied. So that 2 is going to go to the 5 as an exponent, the a and the b. So be careful when there are already exponents present. So we're going to get 5 squared times the a squared was already there. Remember, when there's an exponent floating outside of parentheses, you are multiplying by any exponent already present. And then b cubed now times 2. All right, 5 squared is 25. A 2 times 2 is 4. B 3 times 2 6. Next. All right, got a lot going on here. So you can approach this in a couple of different ways. I like to go inside the parentheses first before I go outside. So what I'm going to do is look at my inside. I don't like starting with negative exponents. So I'm going to notice that b has a negative exponent on it. So I'm not even going to worry about the outside right now. I'm going to take that and I'm going to move it down and create a denominator so that the negative disappears. I want it to be straight. So the negative 3, remember, a negative number is okay. So the negative 3a squared stays on the top. The b now moves to the bottom and becomes a positive 5. We have not done anything with this outside exponent. All right, as far as outside exponents, when your outside exponent is negative, I clear them in 2 steps. So because we're going to do the negative first. So this negative, I want to clear it first. So we are going to flip the entire fraction. So we're going to flip the fraction, and that is going to drop the negative. So when you flip this fraction, you are just letting the numerator and denominator trade places. You are not changing anything inside other than just completely inverting it. So the b to the 5th goes to the numerator over the negative 3a to the 2nd goes to the denominator, and we are dropping the negative on the 3 exponent. So take care of the negative first, then you can distribute your exponents. So this 3 we can distribute on multiplication and division. So it's going to go to the b, it's going to go to the negative 3 as an exponent, and it's going to go to the a. So that's going to give us b to the 5th times 3 over negative 3 to the 3rd times a to the 2 times 3. So remember, it gets multiplied by any exponent already there. So that is b to the 15th over negative 3 cubed is negative 27, and then a to the 2 times 3, 6. H. All right, I'm not even going to worry about that outside one right now. I'm going to go to the inside and get it cleaned up. So I've got negative exponents, got a couple of them. So first thing I'm going to do is this y is negative. So I'm going to move it to the bottom. There's also another y that's negative. So I'm going to move it to the top. So those 2 y's are kind of going to trade places just because we have one on the bottom and one on the top. Nothing else has a negative exponent, so everything else stays. So I've got my 2x cubed, y to the now positive 3 on the top over 3 now y to the positive 2 on the bottom. We have not touched that outside negative 2, so it just needs to keep moving down. I'm not done. I want to clean the inside up first. It's easier to distribute and deal with another exponent when the inside is simplified. So we have 2 powers of y. The smaller one gets moved, and we're going to subtract. So we're going to subtract it from the top one. So we've got 2x cubed y 3 minus 2 is 1, so I don't need the 1, which means the only thing left on the bottom now is that 3. All right, now negative first. So that outside exponent's negative. I want to clear the negative first. So the 3 moves up, and then the 2x cubed y moves down. All we're doing is dropping the negative. Now we can distribute. The 2 goes to the 3. I don't know if I can draw enough arrows. It goes to the 2. It goes to the x, and it goes to the y. It's a lot of arrows. So we're going to get 3 squared over 2 squared times x to the cube. The third power was already there, so 3 times 2, y. The 1 was already there, so if you want to write it as 1 times 2, you can, or you can just go straight to a 2. All right, 3 squared is 9. 2 squared is 4. X to the 6, y to the second. Right. Last one. All right, we got a lot of stuff going on, so I'm going to kind of work on these 2 independently for a minute. So first one, if I look at the inside, 3x to the 4th times y is already simplified. So I'm going to clear the negative exponent, the negative first. So remember, you can always write something as a fraction over 1. So they're going to trade places. So I'm going to go 1 to the top over 3x 4y. And now instead of that to the negative 3, it's now to the positive 3. On the other side, I have a negative power of y. I don't want to deal with the negative, so I'm going to move it to the bottom. So that's going to give us negative 8. I'm in the wrong color. Remember, don't move negative numbers. X over, there was already a y on the bottom, so keep it there. And then y now positive 3. If you want to keep it in parentheses, you can, but since there's no outside exponent on this one, those parentheses are not necessary. Just don't forget the multiplication dot. All right, left one, we can now distribute. So the exponent 3 is going to the 1 on the top. It's going to the 3 on the bottom, the x on the bottom, and the y on the bottom. 1 to the 3rd over 3 to the 3rd times x to the 4 times 3, y to the 1 times 3. On the other fraction, the negative 8x, can't do anything, but we can combine our denominators by adding, so that is going to be y to the 1 plus 3. All right, 1 to the 3rd is 1. 3 to the 3rd, 27. X, 12. Y, 3 times, we have a negative 8x over y, 4. All right, so fraction multiplication, remember numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So essentially this is just one giant fraction. So I've got 1 times negative 8x, which is just negative 8x over, and then if you want to string it together first, you can, 27 x12 y3 times y4, and then we do still have 2 y's and 2 x's, so we need to condense those down. So 1x on the top, 12 on the bottom, so we're going to take that 1, move the smaller one, we're going to move it down and subtract, so that's going to give us just the negative 8 on the top. And then we have the 27 on the bottom, x 12 minus 1 is 11, and then for our y's, we have 2 y's on the bottom, so we're going to add those. 3 plus 4 gives us 7. And again, we're left with the negative 8 and the 27. Those numbers didn't reduce, so there was nothing we could do there. So this is as simplified as we can go. All right. There are several you try it's if you want to try those and then check them with the completed notes.